Welcome back to another video. In this one, we're gonna be talking all about the Minnesota Walleye Opener. I reached out to a bunch of different guys all across the state, and they're gonna share their very best advice for anybody who might be watching this video who's gonna be heading out this weekend chasing walleyes. So without further ado, I'll let the guys share their tips.
Oh, finally guys, it's crunch time. It's almost fishing opener, the biggest Minnesota holiday of the year. I'm just sitting in my garage doing a little bit last minute rigging and everything else. I unfortunately will not get to participate this year, so I'll be on Lake Winnebago for the National Walleye Tour event over there. But I'm just gonna give you a couple quick tips on what to use this weekend and how to find walleyes if you're not sure, if you're just first time or just struggling, if you're trying to find something. The best tip I can give you is probably if you're on it, if there's any current areas, anywhere where they were just dumping out from spawning, to be the number1 key to look for. Otherwise, shallow spawning flats with sand grass and stuff starting to pop, that's where those shiners are gonna be. That's where those walleyes will be ready to put their feed bag back on here after spawn. So those are my two big tips. Slow your jigging down, 1/16 to an 1/8 ounce jig. Work it slow, don't be snapping it. The water's not warm enough for that yet. Just work it nice and slow. Even drag if you have to. Get away from boats. You're gonna put more fish in the boat. So those are my two big go-tos for this weekend for looking for them and catching them. Good luck and have fun.
Hey everybody, Joel Nelson here. You know, I'm in my boat, getting some rods rigged, getting ready for doing some more fishing overall. Panfish, walleyes, of course, for the opener. There's just so much great stuff about to happen. And if you fished openers like the one we're about to have, maybe you already have kind of a heads up for what we're going to be getting at, but I've got just a couple tips that might be able to help you get on more fish this opener and do a better job of presenting to them. So first and foremost, it's going to be cold. Maybe not in terms of the air temperature, but depending on where you're at in the state, ice may have just gotten off the lake. So first and foremost, you're fishing fish that are extremely cold-blooded, and I think you need to slow down your presentation a little bit. So maybe my first tip would be slow everything down. We're excited to break out those long rods, cast, get some pretty active retrieves going, but it's not going to be that kind of a bite for most people. It's going to be really slow, it's going to be really deliberate, and you may actually have to let those fish grab onto the bait and fish them more like you would a live bait rig, where you let the fish eat and work its way up until it finally gets its face over the point of the hook gap. And then as you feel that they're on, then give a slower sweeping hook set. So that can be a real key to success, from just feeling bites, losing minnows, especially shiners, to actually converting, you know, different fish when they do eat. Another tip I'm gonna give you, number 2, is to add tungsten to your repertoire. So the Northland tungsten jigs came out and have really been doing a great job of tuning in anglers to the bottom content. And when it comes to jig fishing, I really believe in mapping the bottom mentally. Casting out, feeling that jig and its way across bottom, feeling for changes from rock to gravel to sand, and finding out where those transitions are. Better yet, use it in concert with side imaging and or forward-facing sonar, and you're gonna have a really great mind's eye view to exactly what's going on out there, where the zones of fish activity are going to be, and that tungsten jig is going to telegraph all of that for you. If you haven't fished tungsten, it's extremely dense, it's extremely heavy for its size, so you can fish a jig that's a small finesse presentation, which we'll need in temperatures like this, but then also have all that information translated through the density of that jig back through hardline, especially if you're using that, but even if you're using a fluorocarbon leader, all that sensitivity comes back into the rod and you feel it and you know exactly where that break is, and you'll be able to focus on it with your cast. So that's tip number 2. Tip number 3 is going to be all about making sure when you've got your boat going, you're not making it harder for you to catch fish, specifically not driving over fish. During the opener, fishing is going to be shallow. It's just, for walleyes, the way it's going to be. Those fish are going to be potentially as shallow as 5-6 feet of water in some developing cabbage areas, but so often they're in that 8 to 15, 16 foot of water up north, clear water. That's kind of the scenario that you're faced with again and again and again. And hey, we all know how busy opener can be. If you're on a popular lake and you're on a community spot, there's going to be people zigzagging forwards and backwards all over the place, especially if they keep driving over the fish that you're trying to catch. Pull out of there. Find an area to yourself. Work from the depths inward, not the other way around, and realize that driving over those fish in shallow, clear water, especially 15 feet, 12 feet, 10 feet of water or less, you're just gonna blow them out of there. So stay deep, work your way inward and not the other way around. And really, I think all those tips, fishing the tungsten, mentally mapping the bottom, fishing slower, playing a little bit of tug of war, letting that fish hold that bait. And then lastly, making sure that you don't drive over fish. I think those 3 tips are really gonna help you get bit more often. And hey, maybe a 4th sneaker tip, if all else fails, go out crappie fishing. They should be in the shallows and they should be eating pretty well. So go ahead, have a great opener. From me to you, good luck out there. We'll see you on the water.
Hey folks, Captain Donnie coming to you from Rainy Lake with some early season walleye tips. We don't quite have ice out yet here up on Rainy Lake. If you pan around, you can see that there's still some ice deteriorating quickly. So the things that I will focus on are any sort of tributary coming in to Rainy Lake proper is going to attract walleyes in the early season. I will look for shallow mud bottom bays that collect sunlight. A lot of times that water can be 10 to 15 degrees warmer than the water in the main basin. Couple of things I like doing early in the season is pitching jig and bait if I'm on the US side, or pitching hair jigs. I like this one from Northland. I used this one quite a bit last year. The other thing I like to do is pull these rumble bugs, and I'll pull rumble bugs relatively shallow, parallel to the structure I'm marking fish on. Just a simple cast behind the boat. Those are a couple of the techniques I'm gonna be using. So good luck on the opener. Let me know how you do.
For this opener, I'm gonna be using tungsten jigs. Northland Fishing Tackle has a tungsten jig, and I'm gonna use this to start out 1/8 ounce, and a parrot is always a good color for leech, Winnie, and surrounding area lakes. But you can't go wrong with that. Add a shiner, and I'm using a long shank so I could double hook the shiner to get the hook back farther. And if that's not gonna work, which I think it'll work, I might only need 1 rod, I'm gonna have a deep V tied on. The deep V is really nice. It tumbles and wobbles, but I'm gonna add plastics, and I have some right here to show you. This is an impulse plastic. There's a package, and I got my next topic right next to here. There it is right there. I'm gonna put that on the deep V, and I'm gonna pitch it around as a search bait, and you can see the impulse there, and just a natural kind of shiner color. And then if nothing's really happening, I'm gonna put on a deep V hair jig, put a smaller minnow that drapes inside there. If you can't get shiners, if you can't find big bait, use one of these, put a smaller minnow on, then pitch. Remember, it's about temperature this year. The ice just went out here not even a week ago on some of the bigger waters. So find the warmest temps and hit it hard, because that's where they're gonna be. I have another setup here I like to use, is a deep V jig, but on a slip bobber. So I'll set that up for about 3-4 feet of water when I'm pitching shorelines on clear lakes. Clear lakes where the fish are moving slow, you give them time to get at it. So I'll double hook a shiner and throw it under a slip cork, and got a little heavy sinker there so I can lob it, and a brass grommet. So if you want to use braid, whatever you want to use, that brass grommet helps. So there's my selection of what I'm going to do. I got 3 rods, and I got a handful of jigs, all Northland, and I'm going to hit it hard this opener. So remember, follow the temperature, find the bait, and you're going to find the recuperated fish.
Hey, National Walleye Tour Pro Dusty Minky here. Wanted to talk a little bit about the up and coming weekend, the Minnesota Fishing Opener. Probably my favorite weekend out of the whole year. You know, it seems like it's been a really long winter, so for this ice to just barely be going off again, it's a very exciting thing. So I just wanted to maybe share a few pointers for this up and coming weekend. Unfortunately, I'll be pre-fishing for the National Walleye Tour out in Lake Winnebago in Wisconsin, so I'll have to get out there about a week later. But I guess a few things, you know, that I like to do on Fishing Opener in northern Minnesota is I really try to look for like a spot-tailed shiner, and I like to use like a lighter, you know, Northland stand-up jig in like an 1/8 ounce. Or this year I'm going to be real excited to test out the new Northland tungsten jigs, and this is in the 1/8 ounce size, but it's much smaller in profile, so I think that's going to be a lot easier for a fish to get inside his mouth and Just a real nice sharp hook, lifelike eyes. So when you're at your local bait or tackle shop, they've got these on the shelf. I know that for a fact. So pick a few of those up, give those tungsten jigs a try. I like to use them mostly this time of year on 6 or 8 pound monofilament in the clear or green color. I just think it gives the jig a little bit better float and feel in the water. And these fish this time of year are a little lethargic, so if they do get that in their mouth, say on a braided line, you might set the hook too fast. So try a little bit of monofilament with those lighter jigs. There's also a little bit of a bait shortage. It seems to get worse and worse every year, so you know, can't be afraid to just try some fatheads if you can't get spot tails, or try some rainbows. You know, even this year I would try to get some leeches and crawlers. And when I do leeches and crawlers, I've really grown over the last couple of years. I've drawn to this deep V jig that Northland makes. It's got a little bit longer of a shank, and I could kind of feed that leech up on there, or feed that crawler up on there a lot further, maybe pinch the crawler in half. You can also try that under a slip bobber, or just on that light monofilament line. Get it away from your boat. Get some space away from the boat. You know, these clear lakes, the fish are spooky. So get that away from the boat and give that a try with maybe some leeches and crawlers. Other than that, you know, the ice had just kind of gone off up north here, so warm water is going to be the key. Even try a little shallower than normal. Maybe even do some pitching up into weed edges. Just, you know, those fish are going to be concentrating on bait that are in warmer water. So give that all a try, and I think you'll have a successful opener. And just be safe out there and have fun.
Hey guys, well, the 411 on Mille Lacs this year, yeah, we had a little bit of late spring, a little bit of late ice out here, but as you can see, the lake is completely ice free. I've been out zooming around looking at water temps and things, and let me tell you, the fish, at least if all the fish I'm seeing are walleyes, are set up in the typical locations, 12 feet and under. I'm finding anything from 49 to 54 degrees, and I know that's a big old wide spread of temperature right now, but these days like today we get that's a little warmer. All that does is just cook that lake and bring that up. I am predicting a really fire bite come opener out here. Like I said, 12 feet and shallower is where they are right now, and I think they're gonna stay there. What you'll see is these schools are pretty big. I mean, I wouldn't stop if you're only seeing a half dozen fish. I mean, if you see a school of 20, 30 fish, yeah, stop, throw jigs on them. So 1-2 punch is gonna be mark with side imaging, then start throwing tungsten jigs at them, and that's gonna be baited with either a fathead or a shiner, and work that slow back to the boat until you figure out how fast you can work those jigs to get those fish to bite. But start out slow, speed up your approach, and if they just start cracking jigs, up that weight. Get that weight past that eighth, get up into that quarter so you can process those fish. Happy opener and good luck fishing.
Well, that wraps up all the guys sharing their best tips, and I will leave you with one parting piece of advice. A lot of times anglers go out and they like to fish their favorite spots. You know, maybe they caught them here last year. Every year, especially on opener, the conditions can be way different. So make sure you're using your electronics to verify that there's fish in the area. Very specifically, this time of year, it seems like any type of side scanning, side image technology where you can see out to the side and just verify that there's fish there before you start fishing. You know, there's gonna be fish all around up in the shallows, but you're gonna find big pods of fish, and that's where you're gonna catch the most fish this time of year. So that's my one piece of advice before we wrap up this video. So if you enjoyed this video and you learned something, make sure to hit that little red subscribe button down below, because we have a lot of awesome content coming in the weeks ahead. And until then, we'll see you in the next one.